Set your butane torches to high and your expectations to low. Coming to you live from Just the Tip Cigars in the hills of the Steel City. Get ready to get your fix. This is the Cigar Junkies Podcast. Welcome to the Cigar Junkies Podcast, a cigar show for the community by the community. A forum to talk stogies, booze, food, and anything else in the cigar lifestyle. If you're looking for ratings, negativity, reviews, or an authority on all things cigars, you came to the wrong place. Whether you like what you hear or not, please join the conversation and let us know by finding us at the Cigar Junkies Facebook group or emailing us at thecigarjunkies@gmail.com.
What's up, junkies?
Here we go again. There's a lot of microphones in this room. There's a lot of people in this room, a lot of junkies. One of them has a beautiful head of hair, and I'm not talking about Paul in the corner. Joining us today, special guest for the show, Lucianno Meirelles.
That was even better.
Yeah.
Now you got it. Now you got it. Yeah, and we have a very good taste for haircuts.
It was the second shot of tequila that really helped me nail it. It's usually how that goes.
There we go.
Thanks for hanging out with us, guys, like you can every Sunday at 9:30 live on the Facebook group. We are coming to you live from Just the Tip Cigars, which we're going to have to dive into a little bit. There was a question about the origin of the name of the show. But the first thing that I want to say is The Office Space, the movie. Yes? I know you've seen it. Movie. I know Jason's seen it. You guys seen the movie Office Space?
I have not.
You're going to miss this. All right, so real quick, Michael Bolton. When he's sitting in the traffic on the way to work, right? Yeah. Okay, so I hop in the truck, and the next song comes on my playlist as soon as I'm driving away. Like, I had to drive way fast from my driveway because I was afraid the volume was going to wake my wife up. Gangster's Paradise starts hitting on the stereo in the truck, and I felt like Michael Bolton when he's sitting there listening to NWA or whatever it is in traffic, and a guy comes up to his window and he like turns it down and rolls the window up, and then as soon as he goes past, he cranks it back up again. And that was me on the way to work.
I love it.
Oh yeah, it was very Pale vibes this morning.
Yes,
for lack of a better word. Yeah. So we're dancing and vibing here. So. Is this not your first time in Pittsburgh? First time in Pittsburgh, Lucianno?
Not the first time in Pittsburgh. I've been here before.
All right, now you have to say something nice because you don't want to, tick off potential customers in the area. So say something nice about Pittsburgh. Nice. Obligatory.
No, it's funny you say this. I was just talking to some new friends I made here at the shop, and we're talking about identity. There's so many people now just kind of trying to kind of mold their message wherever they go, like just to kind of be fun, be nice, or try to kind of get into different markets and stuff. I think the more authentic you are, no matter where you go, it's always a better way.
Yeah. Well, let me start the authenticity by saying if you didn't come, I was going to talk mad crap.
I wouldn't miss it, man.
That's right. Which is awesome because, I mean, there's a very
shiny head thing going
like you've got a way more beautiful facial hair than I do. But other than that, like maybe we were split up at an orphanage somewhere.
Maybe,
you know what I mean? Adopted by
so
different
too. You have kind of Italian look too.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah. It's fair. I don't have the cool accent either.
Or about the 18-inch difference. Throw that in there as well.
I haven't seen him with his pants off yet, so I wouldn't know.
Oh, we went there.
Man, that's a good start for
that's what she said.
That's
being
right.
clean, right?
Nothing
foul
was said.
The vibe. You could say whatever you want on this show. We're very good with the
Here's
flow.
how it started, guys. It started like you can say whatever you want in the show, but choose your words carefully. Mm-hmm. So there's a little paradox there.
Yeah. But that was your example of what he meant right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You could say it, just
be careful about your verbiage.
Yeah, just say just a tip. No?
Did you ever, just to see how it feels, did you ever watch a movie when you were a kid and then watch it when you were an adult and went, oh, that joke went over my head? Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Like, be dirty, but be creatively dirty.
Clever.
Yes, clever.
I like clever.
Good job, Paul.
Yeah.
I like Paul already, except for his damn hair.
You know what you should do?
Cover that up.
We should probably tell him like who he is and what cigar company and stuff.
Hey man, he's here for your shop. Get at
that's
it.
True.
Pitter patter.
So yeah, what's your cigar company? What are we smoking? Because we all got like variety things here.
I think I lost my identity. I don't know anymore.
So much for solidifying on that.
So we are from Lucianno Cigars, right? I'm Luciano. We are from Lucianno Cigars.
Yeah.
That's
pretty much
wow. Elegance.
Hey, you set that alley-oop up. I mean, he dunked it,
He
bro.
did.
It was short and sweet.
A man of few words.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So what all are we smoking? Because we have a vast array of sticks here.
Let's go counterclockwise around the table. I've got the underrated, which I've got to know. Like, did you know right from the get-go? You smoked this and you were like, people are gonna crap on this, but it's better than what people are gonna say it is. Was that the vibe? Like, why is it you knew out the gate it was gonna be underrated? That's a great name.
So listen, everything started with an idea of a very good friend of mine called Ron Harper, right? So he's this NBA player that it is. I think he is the most underrated basketball player in the history of the NBA. So 5-time champions. You guys didn't know that, right?
Nope.
That's great. So
I don't even know if I heard the name he said. Did you say Ron Harper?
Roy Harper.
Roy Harper.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ron Harper.
I'm a terrible listener.
So Ron Harper, it's interesting you don't know, but I think it's because I'm much older than you.
I'm also very short.
Yeah,
basketball is not my sport.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I
like
can see
hockey is okay because like little guys can play that.
Yeah, that's
clowns.
True.
He's really into clowns.
All the midget games and stuff. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. You can say that. I appreciate that about you. He's got the vibe.
No, but listen, the guy is a 5-time NBA champion.
Okay.
And he played with Scott Pippen, Michael Jordan. He was on that kind of so-called golden days of Bulls.
Scottie Pippen. Now, I'm with you on Scottie Pippen because on NBA Jam, he was the smallest guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's my dude right there, Scottie Pippen.
You know, Michael Jordan is not that tall either. You know, like those guys are. Like, Ron is also. Tall. I think Ron is like 6'5", I think. Yeah. So Ron is this guy that people. He's a guy that's down to earth. He's extremely humble. We met through a common friend, and one day we were just having dinner, and he said, "You know, he's truly a cigar guy. So he smokes cigars, probably more than any of these NBA players that say that smoke cigars.
Yeah.
He really
Screw
smokes
you,
cigars.
Michael Jordan."
Yeah. So, and he's actually one of his best friends, you know, Michael, because they played together and they're very good friends to this day. So he came with this idea of creating a cigar called Underrated that would tell his story. So my response was immediately no. We don't. we are not into making celebrity cigars. We did some projects in the past. Dominic Wilkins. We have a project with Adrian Gonzalez, but it's proven that our cigar community, it hasn't. Nothing really in terms of celebrity has really stuck to our community. I think we have, you know, now some stuff being done that seems to be a little more authentic and people are following it. But usually you have like the celebrities, the followers of the celebrity that will come and buy the cigar once just because they want to, you know, buy a collectible item or something, but they'll never buy it again.
Well,
so,
if I may, I think a lot of the problems that those cigar brands make is that it's about the person that's the face of it.
And not the cigar.
Like that works for shoes.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for cigars.
Yeah.
So here's
you
what
have
we did.
to have a cigar that people like. It's got to be good.
I came to him and I said, "Listen, I'm not gonna make a celebrity cigar, man. If you wanna create something together, because we are friends, we're gonna do something together." So, and he came with this idea of the Underrated. You know, it was his idea, and I told him, I said, "Well, here's what I think we should do. I've been working certain different things, you know, in terms of tobacco blends, and I want to use the most expensive tobaccos and make the most inexpensive cigar."
Oh, I like you so much right now.
Yeah. So we are using Connecticut broadleaf fillers, for example. We are using HVA, Ecuadorian HVA. That's a very expensive wrapper, but we're using as fillers because we buy every year so much of that tobacco. And when you sort the wrappers and the binders, we get a lot of fillers. And over the years, you accumulate those fillers. You have sometimes, you know, we have 12,000 pounds of fillers that we got out of wrappers.
I assume that's just based on grading, right? It's not pretty enough grade to be a wrapper.
Exactly, it's not
but
pretty,
it's
but
still
it's
got the flavor
amazing
characteristics
exactly.
that you're looking for.
And we are selling these wrappers. We're using the wrappers in our products, so the tobacco is already paid for. We decided to pass on that low cost to the consumer, and at the same time create that kind of impact, that surprise effect. You know, like, so you smoke a cigar, you're paying like $8.50, $9, and then you're like, man, but this tastes much more than just $8.50. So what we did with Ron, I said, Ron, we're going to ship the cigars. We're not going to tell anybody that you're involved in the project. And after we start getting the second reorder, then we're going to introduce you and say, by the way, you like the cigar already. There's this guy who's a partner on this brand.
I respect that. And it's way better that you called it the underrated and not like the hand-me-down. Like
that's right. That's right.
Way better name, way cooler name.
So the idea is to deliver, a lot of quality and a very complex taste profile in a cigar without people having to pay, $30 for it.
Well, we're very early into the show, into smoking here. But this is going to be a little bit of a different format for us on this show anyway, because a lot of this knowledge is in your hands and not ours, because we didn't know what we were going to smoke until we got here. I'm not a guy that usually can make a determination about a cigar until I get past the first inch. And that's typically because I think you don't get the full effect of a blend until all of the tobaccos are burning evenly together. And you can't have that on the initial light, right? It takes a little bit of time to heat up. It takes time for the wrapper and binder to catch up to where they're going to be to the fillers. But this is a very, very good first impression for a cigar for me in terms of like straight out of the light going like, this is probably going to be a very good time.
All right.
So we'll check back in on this one later. But so far, the underrated, very, very good on my perspective. Sam,
Definitely.
What do you got?
I've got the Tiago. That's that right? Yeah, Tiago.
Tiago, Connecticut. Yeah.
So what's the story with Tiago?
Tiago is my business partner. Tiago is the very reason why we decided to launch our brands in 2017. So our company exists for a little over 16 years, almost 17 years. But we are mainly tobacco growers. So we start growing tobacco first and then fermenting tobacco, selling tobacco to other companies, then making cigars for other companies. Only about 10 years ago is that we start really making, cigars for other people. We were just growing tobacco before. To this day, it's still our main business. It's grow tobacco. That we sell tobacco to several companies that guys have here in the humidor. And then, in 2017, Tiago comes. So we've been friends for a while. We reconnected actually in Los Angeles in an event. And Tiago was about to get married, and we flew over to Key West for his wedding and spent some time together. And he said, man, I want to do this. Let's do this together. So Tiago comes in that sense. And we rebranded something that we had before. They used to call Reserva Familia, which means family reserve. Yeah. And then we turned into Familia Elegida. So it's the family the chosen family, the family that you choose for yourself,
All right, we got a little Fast and the Furious vibe there.
So that's how this brand came together. This was an existing product. They had a different branding, and we kind of brand with that concept of you can choose the people around you. It's not just about just blood.
That's one of the things about the cigar community anyways, right? Like that's exactly what a lot of it really is you get the guys that are coming to the shop just to hang out with their chosen family, right? Yeah,
but this cigar is a good expression of a medium to full body Connecticut, so it's not like a super mild Connecticut. Everything is clean in our line, but this is it has a hybrid Connecticut, we call this. Just a Connecticut with a little bit of Havana mixed.
Nice.
So before we, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you?
All right. So before we get to Jason's cigar, there's two things that are killing me. First of all, I'm gonna get to you in a second, Paul. But Jason, it was a rough morning for me and you. Yeah. Props to you. I hate doing this, but I'm sitting here like very much out of my peripheral, we have a monitor that shows us where the camera screens are
he
at.
hasn't missed a
and
beat.
Every single time I go, dude, he's so much better at switching those cameras than I am. And I thought I was going to have to produce today. Because Jason was running a little bit late, which is fine. He gets a pass there.
He's getting highly paid to do that, right?
Oh yeah,
well,
ridiculously.
But his pay is docked for today. We already decided that very early on. But no, man, like you've been very, very smooth on the controls. So like, props to you. Now,
before we go to Paul's, I do have a follow up on that.
Go.
So what you were talking about, like with this cigar, as far as blending goes, is that all you? I mean, is that what's like? I don't know how to phrase it the best. Like key role, like are you the blender or do you have a couple people you work with for it? Like how's that work on that side of things?
Well, I think on the creative side, I'm the one creating the blends, but there isn't such a thing as like one person creating a blend. So you're always seeking validation, right? So once you create something, you can make your own judgment, you know, and of course with years of experience, you know when you really got into a product. But I think
I want to hug you right now because another bald guy that's a creative guy but seeking validation. We're on the same page.
There you go. So it's not about even us seeking validation. It's about the blend being validated by everybody. So I can tell you that when our bunchers are making the cigars and our rollers, they are smoking it. And they come and said, "Man, boss, this is really good." You know, I said, "Perfect. That's the first stage. You know, it's making sure that people that are involved into the manufacturing are happy with the cigar." And then we have all the reps. It's one of the things that we value a lot too, and we have a few examples of how our team actually participates in the creative side of things, including not just the blends but also the brands. You know, how we come up with brands, how we come up with the new steps, you know, into branding a new cigar. So we'd like to have their involvement too.
Nice. That leads me into a question. So if you're not familiar, Undercrown from Drew Estate was born of the fact that all of the people in the factories always wanted to smoke the Liga Privada all the time. And they're like, guys, we cannot have you all smoking all of our inventory of this broadleaf wrapper, right? And so essentially they adjusted the blend to create the Undercrown because it was like, you guys are smoking too much money out of our pockets. So it was like, you know, they came up with a new blend that used a very similar to the Liga Privada number 9 and called it the Undercrown because like the rollers were smoking them out of house and home. So like, do you have an experience that's similar to that of like it not even necessarily a cigar that you created for the rollers, but can you say like the one that the people that make the cigars for you, when you say, okay, you can have 1, 2, however many cigars a day, which one's the one that you see them taking the most?
I think that's an interesting question. I honestly believe that we have different than, got to be careful. I don't want to say different than other companies, but I believe that there are many companies that do the same. Most companies, they always have some sort of connection in between the blends that they make, right? Especially if they grow tobacco in a predominant region, they'll always use the tobaccos that they grow, right? So if you grow like in Esteli and Jalapa, you see more predominance of Esteli and Jalapa into certain blends. We pride ourselves of not having one single cigar that tastes like each other. So we create different taste profiles. There's almost no connection between them. And we only put a product in the market when we find that disruption again. That's one of the, I'm answering something you didn't ask.
But if you haven't done it already, your next line should be Disruption. That is a cool name.
I think it's already trademarked. But anyway, so the idea is if we're going to put something out, it has to be something that we don't have yet, or something that preferably that I never experienced before, which brings another conversation. And I'll explain why this is connected with your question. So our rollers and bunchers, they're very blessed because of that. So it's almost like they don't have to kind of choose who is their preferred child. You know, they have access to kind of smoke everything. Everything is different. I think in that sense, they get to smoke a lot of stuff, a lot of different taste profiles, different things. So I guess it's a little different in our factory. But just explain why. So there's something very difficult for me to talk about because it's hard to explain. But it's a health condition that I have called synesthesia, right? So I have a very hard time to deal with. It's not a good thing. It sounds cool, but it's actually not cool.
Jesus. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, those synesthesia is when physically the way you perceive all your senses is to this part of the brain, the hypothalamus part of your brain, right?
Okay.
So my wires are crossed when it comes to the the receptors of senses. So if I'm smoking something, that usually I'm getting sometimes chills, goosebumps, or if I am, I can get a lot of nausea just because of sounds. I can get color filters just because of what I'm eating or smoking or hearing. So it's very unpleasant. There's a lot of kind of bad side effects. There's maybe 1% of cool stuff, which is the fact that I can memorize sounds and flavors. So, and I have that since I remember, you know. So if I smoked a cigar, I smoked a tobacco 20 years ago, or listen to a song, I'm usually going to remember the key of that song, or I'm going to remember your voice, or remember taste profiles of cigars. So I always felt like if I make anything that already exists, I always felt like I was cheating. So I'm cloning something, you know. Like if I'm making a cigar that tastes like I don't know,
Perdomo
Nick
Sungrown, yeah.
Perdomo or Nick Melillo or whatever. I always felt like, man, you know, this is kind of easy for me. So that I can't do that.
Try not to be repetitive.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I believe this was somehow transported to the ethos of our company, which is we never put a product that actually, you know, it's connected with anything. So
Like I'm sorry, that sounds very difficult to deal with.
Hold on. For the people at home, synesthesia is when your brain routes sensory information through multiple unrelated senses, causing you to experience more than one sense simultaneously. And some examples of that include tasting words, linking colors to numbers and letters.
Dude, that sounds like a song right there. So like,
Sounds
that's just
terrible.
another way I could relate because like people have been telling me my wires in my brain have been crossed forever. You know what I mean? So like that's
No doubt.
pretty cool. I don't think it's quite the same.
you're on a different level, bro.
Oh, I'm a different. Oh, for sure. I hear that a lot. A different level, extra. You know, stupid. But like, if you think of any artists, like any high up artists, you hear about like the people that struggle with depression, especially in the music field, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of comes down to that tortured artist mentality. Like that might it's a hardship for you, but maybe a gift for the art that you create, right? Because of the thing that you suffer through on your day-to-day life, you are able to create something that other people just can't because
if you pay
of
attention,
that burden.
comes in a package. You know,
Yeah.
like you see a lot. You mentioned depression. A lot of people with depression are probably listed amongst our greatest philosophers and physicists and you know artists, like you said. You know, it comes in a package. You never. I don't think there's no one in our human society who can say that everything is perfect, right? So you can get the most talented, skillful, high IQ, whatever. You're always going to struggle with something, you know.
Well, what comes to my mind is musicians. I'm going to go through a couple of quick ones real quick. Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley, Chris Cornell, these amazing gifted artists that were able to reach generations of people because they created something that nobody else could, that people could relate to. But there's often a burden that comes with that of being able to create this amazing thing, and it's usually the hardships that they've gone through. So here, like somebody like Chris Cornell that unfortunately took his own life, and it's like, man, like how could somebody in that successful of a position with literally the means to do whatever they want get to a place where they were in such a rough state of mind to take themselves out of this world? And it's sad, and God forbid I'm suggesting that would happen to you. I would hope that you live a long, healthy life, but but there might be something. I think there is something to, a difficult life or a tortured soul leads to an amazing art. You know what I mean? That can reach people everywhere. And I think that unfortunately you're dealing with a difficulty that a lot of people can't understand, but it allows you to create something amazing that maybe does connect a lot of people together, and that's beautiful. And at least there's a silver lining to that cloud.
I liked his version better. It's a pack. It's a package. He said the same thing. It
comes with everything.
We've got a lot of time to fill here, Sam.
No, we really don't.
Corey's verbose.
Would
you call me?
Definitely agreeing on the same. It is really cool, and I get what you're saying. Like, it's everybody has their gift and their struggle that goes along with it. Your gift may not directly associate with your struggle, but you do have that balance that you have to keep to life in general. So a blessing and a curse, right?
Exactly.
Right.
What would be of society if we didn't have those deep thinkers?
Yeah.
Going through
I know
the
nothing
depression
about that.
times and trying to kind of figure out existence.
Yeah.
So this
All
is
the fun.
this is something that's in almost every single field of science.
So I want to address the turkey in the room. Paul, can you lean back a little bit because your microphone's blocking it? That is a loud shirt. Is that a wild turkey? Is that what's going on there?
It is a wild turkey shirt. I was at an event this past week, and they were passing the shirts out, and I like it. And then I realized that I wore a wild turkey shirt, and we're going to have an event with our friends at Liberty Pole, so I'm going to have to apologize to them or put my sport coat on to cover it up.
Tell me thought it was November.
She's gonna fist fight you in the parking lot.
My money's on her.
My money's on her.
My
too.
money's on her. She's
Ellen,
a scrapper.
Ellen,
Yeah,
she's one of them small women that you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, I've hung around with her. She's no joke. So.
What she is brilliant.
Oh
Yes.
my,
Absolutely.
That whole
Yeah, you're gonna have a
family is
blast with them.
Oh,
incredible.
yeah, you will absolutely love talking to Ellen. She is a bright, brilliant mind.
Yeah.
She's
I
a
played a
wonderful
gig
woman.
at their facility a couple of weeks ago, and I've never been more that was the first time I've never been nervous playing music in front of people, like about my actual execution of the music. It was like, she doesn't want it too out. Am I too out? Is Ellen gonna come over and yell at me? She's so super sweet, but their whole family is like PhDs. Jason, what do you got? What line do you have?
I have the
Tiago.
Tiago. The
Oh, you're
Tiago.
smoking the same thing.
No,
as
I'm
me.
smoking the Nicaragua. I'm smoking the Nicaragua.
Sumatra. The classic Sumatra.
Yeah, it's from Nicaragua. You're
Oh,
right.
you can trust them, I
It's all from
think, buddy.
Nicaragua.
I just read the side of the
Yeah,
band.
you have,
I'm
you have a
not
Sumatra
super
rapper
smart.
there.
It's very good. I like this is absolutely my taste.
Yeah.
What do you guys? What are the two of you guys smoking over there? You smoking? You paired up with us? Or
I'm
something
smoking
different?
ATL.
Magic.
This is ATL Magic. It was one of our first. Actually, it was the first blend that we did for ATL. And I like the cigar, man. I like to smoke the bold cigars in the morning.
Nice. Oh, are you one of those you like to start bold and then trickle down, or you just kind of you go bold and then figure out what you're gonna do?
I smoke everything, but it's there's a reason why, which you can talk about too.
Ooh, let's hear it.
A quick good morning to Troy Harper, to the lovely Shannon, and to the Scaleses, who are
Yeah.
both in the chat room hanging out
awesome.
with us and Luciano.
And we
Paul
have
this morning.
Amanda Michelle Wood.
Yeah.
See, watching
I know
here.
that girl. I
Can
know
see,
that girl.
yeah.
Happy anniversary. This is our
Yeah, happy
let me
anniversary.
get this right. Our 23rd anniversary.
Don't mess it up.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah, don't mess.
She's
that
got
up.
it on
So,
record now.
I'm here in Pittsburgh. She's 4.5 hours south, so I've got some making up to do when I get home.
Good for you.
But
Save your energy, bro.
Good job.
yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
I don't know if I said this before. We just celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary on April 17th. So
Congratulations.
congratulations to you guys.
23.
Fighting a good fight.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I didn't want to necessarily derail you. That happens to be what I do most of the time.
Yeah. I can see that. I forgot what it was. No. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So the reason why this is one of the things we do a lot, and hopefully we're going to be able to do tonight too, is it's like to kind of bust some myths of our cigar industry. You know, I think that's something that has been almost like a calling for me. it's connected to who we are too. We want to make sure that people, know the truth behind making cigars.
What myths are we busting here? Also, can you put one of those cool MythBuster stamps across the video that says "busted"? Because that'd be super cool.
I probably
we can bust several, but I think just in relation to what we're talking right now about the bold cigar versus mild cigar, when to smoke. There's a very might sound a little too technical, I guess, or maybe biological, but that's the reality. This type of things are things that actually we don't control, right? There's a part of our brain that control for us, which is when you salivate, when you don't salivate, when your mouth is dry, when your mouth is not dry. Also, what's the pH of your saliva when you smoking? So, when
you and Ellen are going to get it.
Yeah, you're going to have a blast.
when we wake up in the morning, so we are breaking our fasting, right? So basically your saliva is extremely acidic, very quick. So you wake up during the night, your saliva is extremely alkaline because you don't want to actually, your brain is releasing a hormone during the night for you to not feel hungry. So you can't sleep through 8 hours, 10 hours without feeling hungry because you're sleeping. When you wake up, it's almost like a rebound happens. Like you gotta eat right away. As soon as you wake up, you feel like, man, I'm hungry. I want to eat something. Or some people don't like to eat in the morning, but as they begin their day in 2-3 hours, they feel extremely hungry. So technically, that's the best time for you to smoke a cigar. It's when you're hungry. Not necessarily in the morning. It could be in the afternoon. But if you're hungry, that means that you're gonna open more the taste buds in your front palate, the ones that it requires you to salivate in order to perceive flavor. You can perceive flavor in the upper part of your palate, back of your throat, the areas that you don't salivate, right? Your nostrils. But you cannot perceive flavor in a front palate unless you salivate. That's why
so cool.
You can only eat if you salivate, right? So the best time for you to perceive all the flavors of the smoke,
is when you're smoking a Luciano cigar.
It's when, that too, yeah. It's when you're smoking a Luciano cigar, but when you're hungry.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a general rule, But we hear these stories, and I was telling. I don't think it was Jason. I think it was forgot his name. Eric. I was telling Eric about that. Is someone writes something one day, and then someone else is Googling and finds that answer, and then he repeats again, and then another show repeats again, and there's another blogger who writes that again, and then suddenly that myth becomes true. Mm-hmm. Oh, because I see the movies, people smoking cigar after a meal and enjoying their drinks. Yes. But smoke a mild cigar. Your saliva is now completely alkaline because your brain released another hormone to tell you stop eating because otherwise you're going to hurt yourself.
What if your brain never releases that hormone?
That's a problem. What's going to end up happening is, no, seriously, what's going to end up happening is going to vomit everything. It's because if you don't stop eating, we have a limit of how much your body can process of food. So immediately that hormone is released, and then now you feel full, so you stop eating. So what are that's called the collateral effects that are happening in your body? So you stop salivating. The little saliva you have becomes alkaline. All the acidity of your mouth is going to a lower digestive system for the processing of the food, and now because you have an alkaline saliva, you're going to perceive notes in a mild cigar that you wouldn't be able to perceive if it wasn't for your saliva being alkaline. And that's one thing. And the other thing is when you are and here's the caveat. When you drink something, or if you drink an alcoholic beverage after a meal, if you're having a bourbon, you're having a spirit, anything that's over 40% proof, now that resets the acidity in your mouth again. That's why if you want to have a bold cigar, usually you find more pleasure in having that cigar with a drink after a meal. But if you just smoke a cigar after a meal, usually it's not that pleasant, as people like to say, or how is in the movies,
That's Real, nah, that's
That's-
sorry.
that's a-
That
that's
is
a
my
myth
brain in
buster.
a rabbit
That
hole
was
right now.
that was like mind opening.
yeah.
But it
He's
makes so
good
much
as-
sense.
Exactly.
You're too high quality of a guest for the show. I don't know where the
You know
camera's
what?
at.
We'll bring it back. What he's really saying is raccoons would suck as cigar smokers.
Well, my point is, so you're mostly when he's speaking, the camera's on him. But if you could see both at the same time,
Yeah.
the number of times that Luciano has said something, and one of the two of us or both at the same time go like,
Whoa.
like the enlightenment that is being passed around this table of like I'm sitting here going like, oh yeah, that's why people get fat when they have to stop smoking cigarettes, right? Like nicotine is an appetite suppressant. You know what I mean? I think they prescribed that for that back in the olden days, right? Like you want to lose weight, here's a pack of Marlboros.
Here's some Lucky Strikes.
Exactly. And it's just like hearing a scientific explanation
Makes it so much
behind
easier.
it is incredible. It's
But
very
that
cool.
being said, like it might not be the best time to smoke a cigar, but it's probably all of our favorite time to smoke a cigar. Like after you get a meal, you're like, oh man, I want a cigar.
Just
Like you
finish
immediately
up,
go
yep.
for it.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't like don't think that like after.
But how do you smoke your cigar after a meal? With what?
I mean, it's usually with bourbon.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is there
so-
a bad time to smoke a cigar?
Well, like the worst time
No,
is
The worst time is after a
all
meal.
the worst
no,
time
no,
is
no,
after a
no,
meal.
no, no.
But
Listen,
it's
I don't
our
think you
favorite
understand
time.
what
I
you're
understand
selling.
your question. There's no bad time, of
no
course.
bad time
But
to
listen,
smoke a cigar.
that's
for my wife.
Going back again to what I said. We can make it all extremely romantic and say things that people want to listen, or we can say the truth.
I like it.
I think truth now is overrated, underrated. I'm sorry.
Underrated.
So we
Like this cigar by
Just like
Luciano,
the cigar, exactly.
the underrated.
So we are not.
Get some truth.
People are not. They're not buying the bullshit anymore. I think people are tired of just kind of going through sales pitch and kind of storytelling only with no substance into the story. So.
They're
But you
getting
guys want to know a myth that's actually probably bigger than this one?
what's that?
Ashes.
Oh,
So would you all agree that a cigar that hold the ash well, very long, means that cigar has a very good construction, correct?
I don't judge it by that, but
Okay.
it is a measurement.
I will tell you that I am under that impression.
You are under the impression? Okay, what about you?
To be honest, I don't necessarily pay a lot of attention to the ash as I do to the burn of a cigar, and I don't necessarily hold it against the cigar if it doesn't have a perfect line. What I care about is, does my cigar burn relatively evenly so that I know, because a cigar is a recipe of ingredients, right? But the problem with that recipe is if this, unlike if you're eating a loaf of bread, when you're smoking a cigar, if your conditions have not been ideal for storage, you might get a little bit more of one ingredient than another if that cigar isn't burning at the same rate. And what I look for is to make sure that all the wrapper, binder, and filler are all burning at a commensurate rate so I can get the full blend experience that I'm supposed to.
Okay, so speaking of getting the full blend that you're exposed to, so no, long ashes are not
You
a
thought he
way
was
to
smacking me
judge construction of a cigar. What if I tell you that the more under fermented the tobacco is, the easiest it is to hold the ash?
That makes sense because if you haven't had a full combustion and you're not getting a full burn out of all of the materials on there, it's going to be stiffer, harder to break apart, right?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
exactly.
saying?
Yeah. So even the cigar is like, if you compare certain tobaccos that are aged for the next amount of time to cigars that are aged for longer, usually those cigars that are aged less, or that tobacco that's aged less, will hold the ash better because there is more ammonia. It just what kind of keeps the structure of the molecules connected together. So, and by the way, we don't get rid of all the ammonia.
Oh yeah, no.
Because if you get rid of all the ammonia, you basically have just a pounder. So you wouldn't be able to actually have a full biomatter. So this whole idea that the ammonia needs to be completely out, it's just unreal too. It's another myth.
So,
But with that being said, so if you are actually holding the ash for too long, you're also adding a filter of tar. to the cigar that can be extremely unpleasant. You know, like again, I'm not speaking against because it's fun, right? Some people like to smoke the cigar like this the entire time, and they do competitions about. Another way to hold the ash is by elevating the humidity of the cigar. If you elevate the humidity to over 80%, most likely it will hold the ash to the nub.
Sure.
It all
In
depends on the
complete combustion.
structure, depends on the texture of the tobacco. But the best way for you to verify construction is when you ash out and you look inside the cigar and you see if the thicker tobaccos are centered and the thinner tobaccos are on the outside. So basically, the ash is actually hiding the construction.
Okay.
So it's not actually revealing anything. So, but the ash is important too. If you keep like an inch of ash, it keeps the cigar lit. It's what keeps the cigar lit. If you want to slow down, give it a break to a cigar, make sure you leave like a inch of ash because that's what's going to keep the cigar, that blanket
Insulated.
of ash, insulated and keep the
We
cigar
talk
lit.
about
So-
that for
Yeah.
sure.
So what he's saying, it's a delicate ballet of fire,
Everything
ash, and
with these
smoke,
things.
and tobacco.
All right, George R.R. Martin.
So I got a couple questions coming through chat, so I'm going to kind of cut through
You
our
do
stuff
that,
for a minute.
But I want to, after that, I'm going to lead you into the obligatory question, but we'll give
Yeah.
you a little bit of a ramp up.
So first question is similar to what we had talked about in the humidor was coming that way. Can Luciano tell us what the best humidity is for cigar storage? When I started smoking, I was hell-bent on 70 and 70 roll, but now I keep everything around 62 and everything is so much better. We had talked in there, and I've talked about on here before, the Corojo Reserva doesn't like to be at 70. It doesn't burn well. So go ahead, man. I'm not even going to try and segue any deeper into it. Do your thing.
Yeah. So I'm going to first answer something you didn't ask, but you mentioned now. So it's not that the Corojo burns better. Corojo actually was a seed varietal that was developed to make wrappers. So it's a tobacco that's very thin, and it burns really well. The thing is, some people might use a Corojo as a filler, and they might use very thick tobaccos inside. It's not about the seed varietal, but the thickness, the priming that you're using inside the cigar. So when you have a lot of thick tobaccos in the construction and almost no tobaccos to help with the combustion, then you have to smoke that cigar a little dry. But now going to your question, what's the best humidity to preserve cigars, right? Cigars you want to save to smoke later. So first of all, you must have two separate humidors. You need a humidor which is preparing your cigars to be ready to smoke. That's one thing. And another humidor that you're going to keep the cigars for a longer period of time. So not to age, but to keep the cigars for longer and fresher, you want to reduce the level of humidity to sometimes even below 60% if you're not going to smoke it. And leave it at that same humidity in a lower temperature, you can keep that cigar for many, many years. Now, you cannot put that same cigar with the cigars that are ready to smoke, because the cigars that are ready to smoke with 70% of humidity and 70 of temperature is slowly fermenting. Very slow, but it is slowly fermenting. And it's also ready for you to smoke. If you keep everything for a longer period of time at 70% of humidity, chances are that you're going to get mold, or sometimes the blend will deviate completely from the original purpose of existing, which is another thing too, aging cigars. A lot of people are using that kind of sales pitch of like, my cigar has been aged for 7 years. And usually my question is always like, what tobaccos you have in your cigar? And then they say, oh, I have Jalapa, and I have some Dominican Pelo de Oro, and I have some Piloto Cubano, and I have some Nicaraguan Esteli. So, well, the Esteli tobacco, or the Criollo from Esteli, is always ramping in strength and flavor, and you can age that for a very, very long time. It usually reaches its peak on 7 years on the high primes and stays in that plateau of strength and flavor for a long time.
I need a notebook.
Now, if you get the Jalapa
Watch the
tobacco, if you ferment actually the seco, the thin leaves, or the volado for more than 10 months, you start losing flavor, you lose strength, you lose everything. So if you have in the same cigar, Jalapa and Esteli, over the years, the Esteli will going to ramp up in strength and flavor, and the Jalapa will decline. So now you have a different blend. So it might be better for some people. Oh, I like my cigars, after I age them for 2 years because this blend, whatever. It might be the case, or it might be actually the opposite. my experience, something that you don't find that much pleasant. The truth is, the cigars, when they are in the market, they're supposed to be ready to smoke.
Not Opus X, guys.
No. So, but again, it's a personal preference, right? And also, like on the, you have that same thing with wines. So every tobacco, every seed varietal, and every soil influences how that tobacco will be aged. You know, in wines you see like Malbec, for example, Malbec and Pinots. The Malbec, you notice the bottle is always very thick and the cork is very long because they want to prevent oxidation, you know, of the grape of that specific wine. Why? Because the wine needs to be drunk within 5 years. If you don't drink a Malbec in 5 years, you cannot age that. That you start losing everything. Try to age a Pinot Noir from Oregon for more than 3-4 years. It's just unpleasant, you know. So the same thing with tobaccos. It's the same process. Same thing with the fermentation. How the yeasts are reacting with the biomatter and the oxygen.
He messed up and he doesn't realize it because he just validated me. But so essentially, to break that down, is if you want to promote the fermentation and change the cigar closer to 70 and 70, and if you want to freeze where that cigar is and retard the fermentation, you like it where it is. Closer to 60 and 60
also,
or under, the lower the better, to freeze where that cigar is so that it'll taste the same when
not
you
necessarily
smoke
freeze,
it.
but it
Yeah.
slows the process down tremendously.
But not
That's
just
your
that.
ambition.
For you to kind of keep the integrity of the cigar, it's better if you keep it in lower
blend.
humidity for longer.
Like you said,
And then-
that it's going to affect the different tobaccos are going to work together differently. So
Yeah, the wrapper will be better preserved. Most of the leaves inside will be better preserved because if there is a lot of humidity too, there's several other bioagents that are working in that tobacco and can you get a tremendous reduction of the Jose Blanco likes to call essential oils, but essential oils for me is a different thing. It's those natural oils that are present in the leaf. If you keep the humidity too high, that really you start losing those oils over time. If you keep the humidity a little lower, believe it or not, you maintain like the integrity of the leaf for a longer period of time. If you're going to smoke that cigar that you kept in a 60% humidity, you got to make sure you transport that cigar to the other humidor, which is at 70%, and you wait a few weeks before you smoke. So you just plan ahead, and that's the best way.
So, I completely just brain farted. I apologize.
It's fine. We got a few questions here on the
Going.
chat.
While you're thinking, Sam, like my guess or my statement for the 70, like Luciano said, the cigars are designed to smoke when they hit the shelf.
some of them.
Smoke more cigars. Buy more cigars. That's my.
That was sorry. I got my brain fart back. So this question's gonna come to me in the shop after this. So I should just put them in the freezer.
That's an interesting point. So
It's dry and it's cold.
yeah. So it seems like the abrupt change of temperature, it's something that can damage the cigar. We actually freeze the tobaccos before we ship.
Because of beetles.
Yes, and it has to have some sort of a humidity level for you to do that.
But you don't do that as a shock, right? You bring that down at
Yes. So let's say you guys all probably study this. What happens when you lower the temperature of anything? So
Expansion, contraction.
the molecules contract, and then if it's the temperature is elevated, the molecules expand. So
Except
this
for water.
contraction and expansion, when it happens too quick, you can damage the tobacco leaf. So it's not recommended to freeze a cigar.
If I may chime in, actually, that's also going to be something that's relevant. So when he's talking about taking a cigar that you've been storing and bringing that to smoking humidity before you smoke it, that may be dependent on the area that you live too, because different areas have a different natural humidity, right?
The climate's different.
Right. So like you can notice a cigar, if you take a cigar out of 60 humidor and you bring it out into a very humid environment to smoke in, right? And it's hot and it's super humid, that's going to be a drastic change for that cigar. So a lot of people may find that depending on what type of climate you live in, you may need to bring your cigar to a different temperature and humidity to have it perform right in the environment that you're smoking in as well.
Well, yes, and also the best way for you to actually, if it's not possible to vacuum seal a cigar, right? Because you need space in between the leaves. So if you try to vacuum seal, you're gonna, basically crush all the cigar. But you can reduce the amount of oxygen. If you put like in a Tupperware and you try to kind of remove as much oxygen as possible, most likely that will preserve the cigar for longer.
So and I'm being slightly sarcastic, but so I should nitrogen purge it. And, I'm gonna get these questions.
But you can try. but actually you can reduce the amount of oxygen. There's one process that we do in some of our lines that's called the after rolled fermentation process, which is when the yeasts that are activated without heat are a different type of yeasts that actually they are activated with heat in the pillow and the piles of tobacco. So when you remove most of the oxygen, which the way we do it, we just put inside plastic bags. So we are reducing the amount of interaction of oxygen with the product, right? So in putting those plastic bags after the cigar is rolled, you're activating a new process of fermentation of that cigar, which is the cold yeasts, the yeasts that don't necessarily require a lot of oxygen to operate. And at the same time, they don't need higher temperatures. So, and that yeast creates a very interesting effect. We talk about blend, right? So if you do that for a very long period of time, you notice that you cannot unravel the cigar anymore. It's like the biomatter, they physically merged, creating like one sponge, So that's a way. It's something that Arsenio Ramos, I don't know if you guys heard of him, invented, because he was a guy who loved to study, the chemistry and geology, of soils and stuff to kind of blend his stuff. And he developed this kind of after rolled fermentation theory, which only after you actually do it and experience, you understand, the beauty of it. You cannot do it with all cigars, but some cigars, it's almost like magic.
I'd love to stay on this, but we got so many questions.
No. Roll into.
Oh yeah, we'll do our standard questions so it doesn't get missed.
So like my experience with this show so far has been you are like the intellectual version of me. You are like up here and I'm down here. So let's dumb it down for a minute, because this is cigar junkies, not the cigar intellectuals, and we like to have a good time on the show. So there is a question that we ask every cigar industry person that comes on this show.
Absolutely.
Junkies, get ready to rumble. It is time for your favorite segment, the Cigar Celebrity Deathmatch. Sam, why don't you tell our guest what our question is?
Do you remember the show, Celebrity Deathmatch? It was a claymation show on MTV years ago. Did you ever see it?
It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger versus Sylvester Stallone.
He's shaking his head.
Essentially, they would
essentially they would take two claymation figures, and one would be Sylvester Stallone, one would be Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they would have them fight to the death.
Okay.
If you had to pick someone in the cigar industry that you would like to do not necessarily to the death, but a battle royale with, who would you pick?
And here's the stipulation. There's two ways you can go.
Yes.
You can be like, this guy's always irked me. He irritates me. This is the person that I would like to fight. Or you could be like, this is the person that I really respect, and I think this would be a really good fight because of the matchup and because I respect him. Like, I pick, you know who Omar de Frias is? Fratello.
Fratello, yeah.
So he looks very similar to us, but he's like 7 feet tall.
Super
I mean, in
size.
terms of facial hair and baldness, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm like, 5 foot, and he's like 7 foot. So I think it would just be entertaining for the crowd to watch him throw me around like a lawn dart. That's my personal choice. So if there was somebody...
He likes to be beaten up. That's why I hear,
yeah. Don't tell my wife.
Or do. So... do you have an answer? Because he looks like he's pondering pretty deeply on this one.
While he's thinking, I'm just gonna throw out one.
The reps are always the ones that are like this effing guy.
I know who this is gonna be.
This not this effing guy. Like this guy's one of my best friends in this industry. He's massively supportive of me, and I try to do my best to return that. But you guys all know Trey Shipley.
Oh yeah,
Valentino. Like Trey's got some crazy stories, so I'm not sure. I'm definitely, if we fight him, he's probably going to shove a finger in my butt.
Oh yeah,
Because there's no probably about it.
because that's just Trey.
Man,
And he's going to look you in the
really
And I'm
eyes.
not
deep
looking
now.
forward to that, but what else will Trey do?
He's
Yes.
going to look
In a-
you in the
in a
eyes and
battle.
go, I like your forehead.
He'll bring that. He'll bring that stupid monkey with him.
yep.
I would definitely be Trey. Just
Trey
'cause-
is the most reoccurring guest on
Yes.
this show, just so you know.
Yeah, okay,
we are
so,
very familiar
I
with
have
Trey.
huge respect for Trey. I love the guy. Like I said, he and I are great friends.
Another beautiful head.
Yeah, he does. He does have the same hairdo.
Overall.
So did you?
I think like if I can create a metaphor, I think when you're fighting someone, usually if you're a professional fighter, you're trying to learn from that fight, right? So you wanna learn, you wanna find where your weak spots are so you can get better, right? I think for me it could be no different in terms of respect. You know, like I respect a lot of people in our industry. I could say that I see so many qualities in some guys that are authentic when it comes to express, you know, what their brand is and who they are, what they do. And I find two guys maybe that I can mention here, which I consider a genius of marketing, but he is the type of guy who usually you don't see bullshitting. You know, like he's a guy who comes in and sees who he are and says who he are, and he says, I'm not involved in the details of how the cigar is manufactured or whatever. But he does have a palate. He does have several blenders working, you know, for him. But he's all about creating these very attractive products. I think Rocky Patel is a guy that's very good in marketing.
Oh.
And on the manufacturing side, I will go to my mentor, the guy who I started with. I would say the most important mentor I have was Arsenio Ramos. He passed away about 4 years ago, so we lost him. And maybe someone else that was part of my journey is Ernesto Carrillo. I think he's a guy who
APC.
I can't, you know, I can't get tired of the knowledge that the guy, you know, can has. You know, he's not just, it's not just about knowledge. He's extremely talented. So he has the natural talent of creation. So he create things. He's very intuitive. So I think he'll be someone that I would love to sit down with.
Yeah.
And well,
He
we have,
flipped the script on us.
There's no
And it's
question.
beautiful,
that you can
and we
ask
can't
him.
even-
He could take
was
the
gorgeous.
high road on it.
was
Like,
awesome.
we're trying to drag you down into the sewers, and you were like, "No, I'm like LeVar Burton reading Rainbow. Like, I could do no wrong."
He's
up
like
there.
he's like the Buddhist monk of cigars.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Ryan Seneca, I just want to chime in and say you're not a cigar celebrity. You don't get to fight anybody, so no cigar vixen mud wrestling match for you. But so we've talked a lot about like in depth details about cigar blending and so forth. Can we shift a little bit to a personal notes, because I don't know a whole lot about you or about your company. Can I ask you where you grew up, what your experience is like in your culture, what drove you to making cigars, what tied you into that, what was your beginning, not necessarily where did you start, but what drove you into cigar?
Yeah, I think the quick answer is the synesthesia part is something that I've learned how to cope with synesthesia by focusing in building, you know, these blends or just by smoking cigars at the beginning, you know, like there's something that was always a part of my life. So smoking cigars always helped me a lot, wine, food, etc. But I think the journey starts actually, if I want to give you the short version of it, it starts with a life decision. So I decided to simplify my life and become a better husband, better father to my kids 17 years ago when they had a horrible father and a horrible. My wife had a horrible husband too. So I was in the financial
Mine
world.
too, but it's also the current husband.
Yeah, it's still. Yeah, I know. She told us. Yeah. So
It only took.
I got the message, man. I got the message. Listen, I must say, I'm actually a straight shooter. I was telling Eric, I don't run away from questions. I might be a little more. I might think a little more when I respond and try to respond from my heart.
Yeah.
Maybe if my heart is a little more elevated, I'm sorry. It's, no, but going back was this kind of process of simplifying my life. So I was working one of the jobs I had at the time. This was back in 2007. Was I was working with the DR government and in the area connected with cigars, but not into making cigars or tobacco. I was just consulting for the government and how to fight for more tax incentives. So they were competing at that time. Macanudo was rising again, and it was selling a lot, but they couldn't penetrate markets like Brazil or South America in general, some countries of South America, because they had these bilateral agreements with Cuba. So Cuban cigars would get there very, very affordably at that time, and Dominican tobaccos could not compete. So that was how my first connection with the industry started there. So I worked almost 2.5, 3 years with the Dominican government. That's when I met Carillo, met people from the industry in Dominican. But Carillo and I connected a lot. When I made that decision, he was sort of a business mentor. He's the one who told me, hey, if you want to do this, don't create a cigar brand. Learn tobacco first. And we created the business around growing tobacco as a nonprofit at that time. It was just something to like really fill up my time, but at the same instance, I was being more present. So I would go to Nicaragua and spend maybe 3 days and then come back and be with my family, take my kids to school and just become a more present, with my family. And that changed the game. That's why I like to say that I got into the cigar business because tobacco really healed me, in that sense as a person. And that would be probably the summary, But again, it's a journey of growing tobacco, then making cigars for other companies, and making cigars for ourselves, and then actually distributing ourselves too, which was the latest step we took.
Well, that hit home a lot for me because my wife made me do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that even jokingly. Like, we argued and I fought against it. I had a decent paying job and all that, but I was miserable prick. I was not happy.
Some things are still true.
Yeah.
Now he's just a prick.
Yeah,
He's not miserable anymore.
But and yeah, we're early days, so I'm here all the time. But this will trickle down, and I'll get more time with the family and stuff. But that's very similar to myself. Is like tobacco for me has been, or cigars for me has been, cut time out for myself. Was how it started. Was take some time to myself, and then it turned into I fell in love with it because it was something I was doing for myself, and now we're here. So different version of the story. You guys got a shout out from Daniel Hughes at Rock On Paul Wood.
Daniel Hughes is a good guy from my home lounge in Ashland, Kentucky.
Shout out to Kentucky.
Yeah. So from my home lounge, he's a good supporter. He's a good guy
for us.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Great musician too.
Ryan Seneca, as long as we're in the chat room, Ryan Seneca has dubbed you the diet Steve Saka. Like if Steve Saka ate well, that's who he puts you out as.
That's funny.
Oh, that's funny. Pretty awesome.
That's funny. Yeah,
It's
I have
funny
a tremendous
because
respect for him.
Me, you, and Steve Saka, and then Omar DeFrias could be kind of like Russian nesting dolls, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can line us up from smallest to tallest.
I don't want to watch you crawl into
No,
those guys. That's just a weird thought.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I'm like, in this show. So I do want to go ahead and make sure we kick out. You can go back to that right after this. Let's talk about the upcoming calendar. What events do we got going on? We got one today.
Yeah.
If you guys are in the Pittsburgh area and you're not on your way to Just the Tip Cigars to hang out,
come
what
ask
are they
questions
missing?
yourself.
What are they missing? What do we got going on today, Sam?
Lucianno and Liberty Pool. So we got the man that's sitting right there answering all of our questions. You'll be here from 1 to 5 answering questions. And then Liberty Pool is going to be doing our standard gig here.
Getting you loaded?
Yep. And then this coming Tuesday, we got our karaoke night. And then the following Tuesday after that's going to be chess night.
What time does karaoke start?
6 o'clock.
Whew, I'm going to be able to make it to this one, sir.
man.
What?
Hell yeah.
I wish we
let's
had a
go.
karaoke night so Paul could sing,
No.
Yeah.
So crazy thing, like this guy's an amazing blender, but he can sing in like 74 different languages. He can play guitar. He can play drums.
We're boys,
like,
man.
Like he's an insanely talented individual all around.
It's wild how often people that end up being devoted to tobacco are also musicians. Like there's such a strong history of that connection all over the place. You look at like Avo Uvazian.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
And
like
Nick Perdomo and
I actually have like a really, really out there question. Just because we're on the subject of music. Luciano, are you a fan of Tool?
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, you're out of your microphone.
Yeah, I would say that I like almost every music. There's very few things I dislike.
Do you know Tool?
I'm cool.
He
yeah,
seems a little evasive.
No, I can't.
Well, we were talking about music.
I'm kind of visiting the archives of my brain, but I know exactly what he's talking about. Yeah.
Then you got to tell me what's the purpose behind the Fibonacci tattoo.
So, as you pointed out, the Fibonacci tattoo.
Dan Brown novels.
It's also known as the golden ratio tattoo, right? So there's a proportion that was created, not created, was discovered, that's present in nature. Like everything that we learn, actually learn from nature, right? Including how to measure time and etc. So that proportion was sort of a very kind of fascinating topic, right? So it's present in almost everything. If you slice a lemon in half, you see there's a proportion for every single part of the lemon that follows the golden ratio.
We're all mathematically coded.
Yeah, we're all mathematically coded. The distance between the tip of your nose and your forehead.
He said nose, Sam.
It has a proportion between the nose and your chin, or the circumference of your waist. It's usually double your neck. So it follows a very interesting pattern, which is the addition of the previous numbers in sequence forming the next number, right? So it follows that same proportion.
You got circle of fifths on you somewhere too?
No, I don't.
That was like one of the coolest tattoos I ever seen a guy have.
Yeah.
Was the circle of fifths on his arm, so that while he was playing guitar, he could look at his tattoo and reference to know where to go on different notes. I'm like, you're cooler than me, dude. You're very cooler than me.
And also have a history in my life with Freemasonry. I've been Freemason for almost 20 years. And
can you say that? Can you just go around and be like,
of course, this is such a myth too. Yeah. Like about secrecy.
That's what they tell you.
What was the Flintstone version?
I don't remember.
The water buffaloes or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The water buffalo.
So yeah, it's connected with philosophy. Is connected with human knowledge. I'm always fascinated about human knowledge.
Well, I am one of my junkie projects is also music. So we have the Cigar Junkies podcast. I also have the Strum Junkies, which is my acoustic duo. Mm-hmm. For you guys in the Pittsburgh area, this coming Saturday, May the 4th, we will be back out at the Bottle Shop over in Heidelberg, playing all of your favorite hits from different eras in acoustic variations. Of all the acoustic acts in Pittsburgh, we are one of them. That's May the 4th. We'll be playing from 7 to 10. That's right next door to Smoke in Heidelberg. And then coming up after that, we're going to have to talk about getting Dave Puskovich and Louis LaManna on the show to give you guys a deep dive into cigar box guitars. We have a buddy that makes cigar box guitars and does them amazingly.
Yeah, they are beautiful.
Yeah. Yes, we have the upcoming.
What's his name?
Louis LaManna.
Louis LaManna.
We'll
Does
talk.
he have a company?
No. He doesn't have a name. He just makes
okay.
them, man. Like he's a retired guy that makes cigar box guitars pretty much.
Because one day I received like a nice gift of someone that came to the events and was one of our boxes, and he made a guitar. Maybe it's him, and he sent to us. So it was awesome.
Nah, he's not actually much of a cigar guy. That's the best part.
It's wild, man. Like he got into cigars because of the cigar box guitars. Like we converted him. But June 15th, Saturday, June 15th, we have the Cigar Box Festival, where there's going to be, I think, 10 different bands that are all going to be playing cigar box instruments. This is an all-day event. Is going to be taking place out in like the California, PA area. I'll have to pull up the address. But we'll have Dave and Louis that are putting the festival on come in and talk about it, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, so we can get everybody amped up. Troy Harper can get his plane tickets out. Seth Jones, all those guys that are listening to us from across the country can fly into the Pittsburgh area and check out this amazing music event, but also something so rooted in cigar culture. We're going to have Leaning House Fine Cigars there selling their cigars. We will have there's going to be popcorn and barbecue and all kinds of cool things going on. The Strum Junkies will be opening that show at 11 a.m. and we will be, like I said, one of I think 10 different bands that are going to be playing with their cigar box instruments. Most of them made by the man himself, Louis Lamana. So it'd be real cool. Keep that on your calendars.
When you were talking about that, I completely forgot. Next weekend, we have our Cinco de Mayo party. We'll be doing a walking taco bar, deals on street tacos, and the new Cinco de Mayo from Rojas. And
I wanted to ask you about that because we had picked a cigar for next week, and then I realized that next week's going to be Cinco de Mayo when we do the show.
Yeah,
and I thought maybe you might want to pull.
Yeah, we'll pull the Cinco de Mayos for that.
Okay, so there you go, guys. That's what we're going to be smoking next week, which is going to be May the 5th. On the Cigar Junkies podcast live at 9:30.
We're also going to have Big Spirits Distillery here, which, as far as I know, is the only distillery in PA that's allowed to call tequila that they make here. So,
baby, I'm excited. Let's go. Pitter patter.
Yeah. So we'll wrap back to these questions because I want to give these guys.
Now I understand why he has a tequila bottle next to him.
Picking up on that, huh?
Yeah, I'm picking up on
it's
that
medicinal. How you doing? You feeling a little unhealthy? I can take care of you.
I'm feeling good. Yeah,
make you feel
you
better.
gotta pour some water, and then people think it's a tequila.
Or the other way around.
It actually is water.
That's true.
Yeah, that's why everybody shakes their head whenever I go to take the big gulp.
Yeah.
Come on.
Let's see. We got. I'm going to ask you just both these questions at the same time. Let you address them both. Eric Wrights asked, "Why are some cigars round and others different shapes?" That actually came up yesterday. He was smoking a box press.
They're like toes. They're all different shapes.
And then does the color of the ash mean anything to you? That's Jeff Scales asking that.
Yeah. So the question about different shapes in a cigar. So the reason why those shapes were created is it's from a very interesting concept that we don't pay attention to, but it's the amount of draw that you get out of a cigar. Some taste profiles require more volume of smoke for you to really fully understand what that cigar is. Some cigars are intentionally made with a draw maybe a little bit more resistant, because there are certain things that you don't want to be revealed in that format. So the shapes, the different shapes, what we called in the cigar world figurados, they came out because of that idea of how can I experience that cigar with different draws or different kind of airflows, right? So box press, for example, usually is intentionally a little bit underfilled. So the way we make a cigar, we use a mold that's usually 2 points higher than the size that we're going to box press to. So we are making a cigar that's slightly loose to box press after the cigar is manufactured. So that delivers a very
If your
interesting...
draw is too loose, put it in the box.
So yeah, well, maybe that's interesting thing. I never thought about that. As long as you have a lot of humidity to make sure you don't crack that.
It's gonna be wet. It's gonna be wet, guys.
But the idea, Eric, was to actually work with that kind of a little more airflow, and also the shape became popular.
Because it doesn't roll off the table.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what
I know guys that buy it for that reason.
But
because
actually,
you can set it down.
Yeah, but most of the figurados, it's more about the draw. Like you get a Salomon or a Pyram, so you can actually control the draw by where you cut the cigar. So if you have a Salomon and you cut very close to the tip, you have a tighter draw.
That's what we'll call your shop from now on, just the tip.
Yeah, if you go down a little bit more, maybe a quarter of an inch, you're going to get a better airflow and so forth until you get to the base of what we call the panuela, or at the head of the cigars. So that was actually the main idea between figurados. It's for people to basically control the type of draw, and also later became also how they interpret or how they perceive the cigar. Because if you have like a Salomon or you have a Pyramid of Campana, whatever, you start and there is this very small, small hole at the bottom, tip at the bottom that you light, and then you have a certain volume of smoke, and as it opens, it creates a experience of delivering more smoke now. So now you have a hint of what the cigar is, and now you have a full expression of that cigar is.
It's like a sampler platter, right?
So-
Like you know, okay, this is what it's like in a small gauge. This is what it's like in a bigger gauge, which is what I
Yeah,
appreciate about
yeah.
a Figurado and a box press. Honestly, is because a box press gives you the ability to smoke. Like CAO flathead is a great example, right? You can smoke a bigger ring gauge that fits a little bit more comfortably in your mouth. But then you also have a Figurado, Torpedo, Perfectos, whatever that might be, that allow you to kind of go through a choose your own adventure book where you could kind of, you can experience this how you prefer to by varying your cut where you'd like
Yeah.
it to. If you typically like a small ring gauge, you want something smaller, cut it closer to the tip. Or if you want to really open that bad boy up, cut it closer to the end.
Yeah, so that's the romantic part of the figurados, right? That's the reason why they're created. But then, obviously, now it became a little more gimmickly too. So it became, you find like the hexagon shape, the Plasencia, some other stuff, which is awesome because some people have this synesthetic experience of how it's important for them how they touch the cigar, how they feel the cigar. I had an event in a store where the owner doesn't like much box press, and you notice that developed a culture into the cigar shop. They do have some box presses, but people just don't
just don't
gravitate
move.
towards them. And some other stores is the opposite. People just got so much of the box press, and suddenly you see people talking about box press. I think Padron was probably the one who really make almost like his entire core line, box
Made
press.
it mainstream.
Yeah.
Well, it's their anniversarios.
But there's a reason too that we didn't talk about, which is construction. So the box press, you can actually play a little differently with the construction. You can use more thicker tobaccos, underfill the cigar a little bit more. This way you can have more airflow, but you can pack with very thick tobaccos. And that's one of the signatures of Padron. It's using very, very thick tobaccos in the construction, very little, almost nothing in terms of combustion. A cigar has always 5 functions that leaves plays different roles to each one of these functions. One is beauty, which is the wrapper. Then you have the binder, which is binding everything together. The name is self-explanatory. And then you have the flavor, strength, and combustion. Those are the 5 most important things or the essential things to construction of a cigar. The wrapper will help with combustion, will help with some of the flavors. But the main role is the beauty, right? You have the binder who is holding everything together. You have a specific type of fermentation that makes that binder with more elasticity, so it can kind of hold everything. It supports the press, so it doesn't break. And that binder will help with combustion, will help to bind everything together, and will help with flavor. I see a lot of people, again, another myth. Oh, the binder is not so important. It's just to hold everything, doesn't add any flavor. Of course, it does. It does a lot, actually.
It's in there,
And
so it does.
in fact, a good example is the Padron. That's why this came to my mind. Like Padron likes to work with a double binder and a wrapper, and usually in the filler, if you deconstruct the cigar, you see there's almost no thin tobacco. There's no seco there. It's a lot of viso, a lot of ligero. So it's a method of construction that the box press allow you to create as well. So there is kind of functional reasons. There is maybe the origin of that, and also there is the gimmicks, which you have like so many different shapes now.
Well, do you have anything kicking? I'm gonna start the wrap up because I
No,
know
no,
you've
no,
got
no.
an event to get to. Go ahead.
No, I want to take advantage
All right,
of
fair
this.
enough. Go ahead.
So Maria Lucia,
Uh-huh.
that cigar, you chose a box press on that. So what was your main purpose in choosing the box press on that, or is that just?
That's a good example. So the shape of the cigar was determined because of the taste profile we wanted. We want a cigar to deliver a little bit of more smoke. We want to work with more high prime tobacco. we start using the low primes in the outside. So we have a Connecticut broadleaf as a wrapper, but it's a very thin broadleaf. It's the bottom of the plant. We call it the volado broadleaf. It ferments a little different. It has a lighter color to it, but delivers a lot of kind of we call high notes, high frequency notes. It's more like floral. It's nose. It's what you perceive in a front palate. It's a method of construction. For us, the box press was because we want to intentionally have a blend that would deliver a little bit more smoke. It also is a story that's very, very close to my heart with the Maria Lucia. So the reason why we want to deliver that
it's
much
on your
smoke-
arm too. I mean, so,
Yeah, was the name of my mom.
Yeah.
And she passed when I was 12. Making the story short, my daughter had a dream when she was 14 of a woman that she never met. And when my mom passed, she was very young, and at that time there was no digital photos or anything like that, and so the girls have never seen any picture of my mom whatsoever. So Deborah has this dream. She wakes up in the morning and says, I dream of this woman, and she makes this artwork. She makes this drawing, which is the cigar band, right? 4 years later, we receive a pack with photos, letters, and stuff. The coincidence is that was her 18th birthday. And then we opened the box, there was a photo upside down, and it was written, Maria Lucia, 18th birthday. So when we flipped the photo, Deborah immediately looked at it and said, this is the woman of my dream. And
oh wow,
yeah, so you guys have here, don't forget,
that is
super cool.
Wow.
I got you. Yeah.
But she dreamed of this woman, and that was like that was this whole commotion in the living room, and girls are crying and that kind of stuff. So, but then another chunk of 4 years, another four years later, now Deborah's 22, and we have Lucianno cigars, and I thought about my synesthetic experience with my mom. So I remember the smell of her skin and the cologne, with cigarettes, because she used to smoke cigarettes. So I remember that pleasant memory of how she smelled.
Yeah.
And the texture of her skin and her voice. So try to translate that into a cigar. So you are a musician. I use a lot of reference to frequencies because depending on the acidity of the cigar, it will spark some kind of high notes in my brain in terms of music. Like if you are in a recording studio, if you're in a show, all what you hear is like the splash or the S, all the high frequencies.
I don't know why it took me so long to ask this question. That means you can hear cigars.
Yeah,
I think right. That is like the coolest crap I've ever heard in my life.
Listen, it's not like super natural, and I'll explain. For someone who wants to understand synesthesia, we all have a little bit, which is if someone scratches a surface, sometimes you can start feeling this very uncomfortable goosebumps and
nails
something
on a
inside of you,
chalkboard.
and sometimes or sometimes some nausea. It's caused by sounds,
I hear it every time. Every time I hear Ryan Seneca's voice, I get nauseous.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but it's all connected somehow. But try to multiply that by 10. It's sometimes what synesthesia is. It's like the hypersensitivity and the connection between these two things. So we all have some sort of synesthesia. If you go into a concert, usually low frequencies can make you sick too. Like all the bass, if you're close to the speaker, can make you feel uncomfortable. So that's kind of what we try to do. The Maria Lucia is to deliver certain frequencies and certain experiences. And the box press was the best way of doing that.
Nice. And then I'm going to I apologize. I don't mean to not play into that and let that go. The last question was the color of the ash. What's that mean to you?
The color of the ash tells you mainly what kind of soil.
Magnesium.
What kind of soil, what kind of fertilizers were used. So the ash tells you a lot. It's almost like a sort of a way of you to see what kind of tobaccos are being used,
Not necessarily an indication of whether the cigar is good or not, because a lot of that it's objective anyway, right? The best cigar is the cigar you like.
So going back to that point of the ashes, the ashes they give you a little bit of an idea of the minerals, what kind of fertilizers we're used to. Because if you use certain fertilizers, that will reflect into the color of the wrapper, but it's definitely not connected with quality or not. There's something that it does tell us about quality in the ashes is when there's issues with combustion. So if you have a wrapper that the carbon ring it's too wide, it's too thick, that's a sign of usually the seed varietal. Some seed varietals they actually have the carbon ring a little bigger than others. It also tells you about the priming of that wrapper. If the wrapper is thick, it's thin, so the carbon ring will tell you that. But also on the fermentation.
If you're listening and you're not super big on cigars, what he's referring to is the line between the normal wrapper, the unburnt wrapper, and the ash, right? So if you pay attention to your cigar, you're going to have, I would call it the combustion ring or the carbon line. Mm-hmm. So he's referring to the black line in between your ash and your unburnt cigar.
Yep. So you can actually see those things through the ash. Another myth too is like a flaky ash versus a solid ash, which is also not a sign of bad constructions where you have a flaky ash, because sometimes it's intentionally built that way. So use a lot of thin layers of tobacco on the outside, because you want a cigar that speaks more into the high frequency I was telling you about, like more acidity, more nose. It's a tobacco. It sometimes is what you perceive in your nose when you walk into a cigar shop and you start smelling it. Usually that smell comes mainly from the outside tobacco. The tobaccos that are placed in the outside of the cigar. So if you have that construction intentionally done, the ashes will be flaky on the outside, and it's normal. Actually, if it's very, very flaky, it's a good sign. It means it was fully fermented. If it's if the ash is very thin on the outside, but it's holding for too long, that might be a sign actually of a poor fermentation, or a fermentation was not fully done into that specific leaf.
Final check-ins, or
one last thing, because a question you asked me before the show and we asked you to hold off on was the name of the shop. When was the first time you heard the name of my shop, if you don't mind me asking?
The first time I heard the name of your shop, probably about 4 or 5 months ago, when Paul mentioned to me.
And what was your thought when you heard it?
Because I grew up in a Latino country. I spent 13 years living in Brazil. It sounds extremely sexual.
Yeah, it does.
So the whole reason for the name of my shop is nobody who's heard the name of my shop forgot the name of my shop. That's it. That's the name of it. And it's just me tipping my hat, I swear.
There we go.
That's our logo and everything.
There we go. Just the tip. There we go.
And he knows a lot about
Needs
just
to
the
be
tip, because them
contextualized.
Brazilians, they got them lifts, if you know what I'm saying. So you might need a little more tip down there than you do up here.
Did you have any, before we start the wrap up, did you guys have anything you wanted to ask us beyond that? Anything, curiosity, anything you wanted to throw out there to anybody?
No, man. I mean, there's several things. I think we're going to have a nice event tonight, and we'll be able to do some Q&A and maybe get some other myths busted.
Yes.
I think will be cool. But I'm going to plug something here, if it's
Go,
okay.
please do.
So it's my old Kentucky hearth in Kentucky, obviously, in Ashland, Kentucky. It's one of we have some kind of places, I personally have, that I can actually count in one hand of places that I go not just because I'm doing business, but I'm going because I have a connection with the family that owns the shop, or I have a connection with the type of mentality they have, and Fat Ash is one of them. And we have a very good relationship with these guys. We've been doing this event since they started. It's a multi-vendor event. We're going to have 20-something, 25, 26 brands being represented that day, but we are one of the sponsors. I just want to kind of plug that. So
when is that?
When is it, the dates?
May the 11th.
May the 11th.
Tickets are going fast. Like, I think the ticket price is $225, I think. You're going to get a cigar from every vendor.
Wow.
Plus so it's nothing. Like you get a
that's already a
like
bargain.
Drink tickets, food, live music. It's a 4.5-hour drive from here. Like, anybody that would want to go, it is a great event. Great people. Yeah. And it's actually held in a convention center, and we can smoke
Wow.
it, which is
That's cool.
awesome.
Beautiful.
Super cool.
Yeah, those guys put together a nice event, man. And people come from all over the country. It's almost like 1,000 people there, 500 people coming to just, for the herf. And again, food trucks. They have 2 kind of restaurants serving food, and it's all included in a package.
Nice.
And we're going to have a dinner a night before, too, which will be like a more intimate one-on-one. And we are sponsoring that dinner together with the local casino that they have there. So it's going to be a cool event.
Let's go around the table for our final. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
No, I was gonna say there's multiple principals. Like Luciano's gonna be there. Ricky Rodriguez will be there. I don't know if you're in the past Oscar Valadares, Eric Espinosa.
Oscar Valadares is one of my top 3 favorite cigar manufacturers.
He's a great
I'm
guy.
very big on Honduran tobacco.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, he's
Also,
a good guy. Justo will be
Leaf
there
by
from
Oscar
Aladino. So
is rooted in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely.
Leaf and Bean. So let's go around the table. Jason, you want to give your final input on your cigar that you smoked?
It was great. The microphone, I'm kind of having trouble with this 4th microphone here, so it was amazing. I'd definitely buy it again for sure.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Sam,
Phenomenal.
what'd you have?
The Tiago, Connecticut. I'm surprised Paul didn't give it to me before. That's a mistake he made. So,
I had the underrated. The only thing I can think is underrated is just the name. Like you smoke this cigar, it's definitely in my wheelhouse.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fantastic. If you're a cigar geek and you haven't had the Luciano underrated, I don't blow guests. I don't do that. I we try not to ever disrespect a brand or something. But that is a fantastic cigar that's directly in my wheelhouse. It'll be something that I'll be smoking on a regular basis for certain. If you're into anything over medium plus, it's approachable, but I would consider it a full-bodied, full-flavored experience, and it was fantastic, and I will personally never underrate that cigar. Do want to give a quick shout-out to the Lux Cigar Lounge, which is a new member to the Facebook group. Again, the next upcoming show is going to be Cinco de Mayo, which will be May the 5th. Come hang out with us Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m., where we will be smoking the Cinco de Mayo cigar. Strum Junkies May the 4th, the night before. Come hang out with us at the Pittsburgh Bottle Shop. You got anything to add to that before we close off?
no, just thank you everybody who stopped by today. We had a lot of new people stop into the chat. Appreciate you.
Like, subscribe, and share on every platform. Find everything that we're putting out, including our awesome t-shirts, at thecigarjunkies.com. See you guys next week. Thanks for hanging out.
Salud.